Okay, here's your homework from page 261. So here we go. This one I'm going to do one way, where I can say x squared is equal to, I'm going to move the 100 over to the other side, take the square root of both sides, but remember that when you take the square root of a number, there are two possible answers. So x is equal to plus or minus 10. This one I'll do the same way. Oops, that should say x squared. This one I'll do the same way. So 2x squared is equal to, move the 3 over and I get an 8. Divide both sides by 2 and I get 4. And I get x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 4, which is plus or minus 2. This one I'm going to factor by, I'm going to show you another way to do it, and I'm going to go 2x squared, and I'm actually going to bring the 43 over to the other side. So 43 plus, or minus 43 minus 7 gives me minus 50 equals 0. Okay. Now I'm going to attack this by doing it through factoring. So first thing I look for is greatest common factor, and I get 2x squared minus 25 equals 0. And then I can factor this as a difference of squares to be x plus 5, x minus 5 equals 0. And because we know how to solve by factoring, and we've talked about how we can go from this to a solution. So from this one, either x plus 5 is equal to 0, yielding an answer of x is minus 5, or this one saying x minus 5 is equal to 0, and I get my answer as positive 5. So there are my two answers there. Number 2, solve each equation, express roots in exact form or in an approximate to 3 decimal places. I'll let you guys do the approximate to 3 decimal places. So one way I can do this is to take the square root of both sides, and I'm left with an x plus 2 on this side is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. Well, that's not a perfect square, so I'm going to leave it as plus or minus square root of 3. And for x is going to be equal to, and I'll subtract the 2, plus or minus square root of 3 minus 2. And this will give me two answers. Therefore, x is equal to either positive square root of 3, you don't really need to write the positive, minus 2, or x is equal to negative square root of 3 minus 2. And those are your two answers. This way, I'll do the long way. I'm going to square this, so I get x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to 5. X squared minus 2x minus 4 is equal to 0. Okay. And this actually doesn't factor by decomposition or anything, because no two things will multiply to 4 but add to minus 2. So actually, that's not a good way to do that one. Sorry, because we don't know the quadratic formula yet. Sorry, my mistake. Forgot that we don't know quadratic formula. So I'll do this the same way as the other one. X minus 1 is equal to plus or minus square root of 5. Therefore, x is equal to plus or minus square root of 5 plus 1. And we left with our two answers. X is equal to root 5 plus 1, or the other solution that makes this equation work is negative root 5 plus 1. And you guys can put that in your calculator to get all those decimal answers. There we go. Number 5. Determine whether each trinomial is a binomial square. In other words, can I make it look like one thing squared? Well, this one I'm going to try and factor. And so my product is 25, my sum is 10, so my two numbers are going to be 5 and 5. So I get x squared plus 5x plus 5x, I'm just doing decomposition, plus 25. Group, and I get x squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25, common factor, and common factor again. I get x plus 5 times another x plus 5. Lo and behold, that actually is a binomial square. So yes, this one is a binomial square. This one, product is 49, and the sum is -7. This one actually won't factor because 49 is a prime number, so the only two numbers, or not a prime number, sorry, the only two numbers that'll multiply are either 1 and 49 or 7 and 7. Neither of those combinations are going to give me a -7. So this one is not a binomial square. Right? And here, sort of another way of saying that is, let's suppose that there is. So if it was, then we would have to have an x here and an x here, and two things would have to multiply to 49. So if we go 7 and 7, there's no way that we can make 7x and 7x make a 49 but also a -7. Like if you do your double distributive property, there's no way we can make that middle term of -7. Similarly, there's no way we could do it if our terms looked something like this, regardless of what the signs are in the middle. So that's another reason why it's not a binomial square. Number 7. Solve each quadratic equation by completing the square and then taking the square root of each side. So by completing the square, okay, we go x squared, take half of the middle term, so plus 10x. Okay, so then we're going to take half of the middle term, which is 5. So half of 10 is 5. So we're going to take 5, and we're going to square it. So we're going to add, and I'm going to leave it as 5 squared. But because I added it in, I have to make sure that I stay balanced, so I have to subtract it back off. So this whole thing essentially adds to 0, so I haven't really done anything. Plus 23 equals 0. I've just made it uglier. Now the reason we complete the square is that this is going to factor for me into a binomial square. Okay, and you can check, you can re-expand this to check that I've done it properly. And then we have minus 25, that's the minus 5 squared, plus 23 is equal to 0. So I have x plus 5 all squared is equal to, now I'm going to do two steps here. Minus 25 plus 23 is minus 2, and then minus 2 when I move it over to the other side or balance my equation gives me positive 2. So x plus 5 is going to equal plus or minus the square root of 2. Let's get this out of the way. Plus or minus the square root of 2. And so x is either equal to root 2 minus 5, or x is equal to negative root 2 minus 5. Now this one. X squared minus 8x. Take half of the b value, so minus 8, if I cut that in half, is minus 4. So plus negative 4 squared minus negative 4 squared, right? Still 0, I haven't done anything. Plus 10 is equal to 0. Now, this whole business here, this chunk, is going to give me x squared. Okay. Now, the reason I left it as minus 4 all squared is because I want to make sure that I have minus 4 in here and not plus 4 by accident. Minus 4 all squared. Okay. Now, this becomes minus positive 16, right? That squared is positive 16. So minus positive 16 plus 10 is equal to 0. X, whoops, sorry, I've got more squareds in here than I need. X minus 4 all squared minus 16 plus 10 is minus 6. Minus 6, when I move it over, becomes positive 6. And I end up with x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 6. So therefore, x is equal to square root of 6 plus 4, or x is negative square root of 6 plus 4. And last one. x squared plus 4x. Half of 4 is 2, so plus 2 squared minus 2 squared plus 2 equals 0. This bit goes to x plus 2 all squared minus, now 4 plus 2, minus 4 plus 2, x plus 2 all squared. Minus 4 plus 2 is plus 2, sorry, minus 2. Minus 2 equals 0. So x plus 2 is going to equal positive 2. Therefore, plus or minus square root of 2. Skipping too many steps. Therefore, x is equal to root 2 minus 2, or x is equal to negative root 2 minus 2. And you're done. Goodbye.